All right, sew up a few loose ends here this morning. So, the cowl tag. Got to put that back on. You know, I know all you keyboard lawyers out there are like, oh, you can't take that off, that's illegal, blah, blah, blah. Bullshit. I don't know how you go ahead and replace an upper cowl without taking the tag off and putting it back on. That's just ridiculous. So, this is the product you use to put it back on with. It's kind of a weird little rivet. And it has just a slightly domed section in there. And all you do is stick that through the firewall, through the tag, through the firewall, and then hit it with a punch in that dome section. And that flares out the back of it. And just causes it to hang in there. And that's the right part. That's the actual part number right there from Classic. If I can get it without the glare. There we go. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Let's see if we can get this done. The other thing the cowl does is it has some hidden serial numbers stamped into the cowl up underneath the cowl grill, just above that MSD box. And I did stamp those back into the new cowl, trying to, respect the process. Okay, so let's put this in. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. So, just gonna lean in here and push that through, and you just literally push it through the hole. Take your punch, and tap it. And that's it. Now do the other side. Tighten this one up a little more. That should do it. Tag installed. Okay, so next I've got the oil catch can. It comes off from these two nipples right here. Comes out of the crankcase into the input. On this is all baffled, and then out back into the intake here. So I kind of wanted it somewhere down in this area, like so. Figured that was a good spot for it. Pretty straight shot right into those two fittings. So I made a little bracket and put another hole in that. And I'll just put one more button head screw through the fender, mount that up, and that should go good. All right, that looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I think I want to do, I'm kind of debating. I think I want to do 45-degree down here to route these hoses behind the AC pump over to those two nipples. Yeah, so I've got some fittings, should be here today, so we'll work that up next. Okay, brake lines came in. So I went with a braided line down to my, let's see if I can get you in here, down to the little, see if I can point. Yeah, so I went with braided lines down to the manifold that I put down there. It's not really a manifold, it's just a bracket with 3 fittings on it. One of them was for the rear, it's an AN4, and then the 2 in the front were AN3. And basically just, loomed them up. Now, these looms are a little interesting. It's kind of difficult to find looms for AN3 line. But what I found out was you can buy these these are actually made for spark plug wire separators. And they come in the package, and they're like $9 for 6 of them, 2 3s, 2 4s, and 2 2s. I used the 2s already, but these work perfect for looming AN lines. So that's pretty much sorted out. I got my looms in there, and everything is tied to the frame. Again, trying to keep it so it's simple. Anytime I want to take the frame out from under this, I unhook those 3 hoses, and my entire brake system's disconnected. So I'm going to double check all the fittings, but that is that. So I got the hose clamps. I like to use this kind here rather than the the regular worm gear ones. They work good. One thing you got to remember, they're stainless steel. So I just take the nut off, throw a little bit of copper never seize on them. It's got a lock nut anyway, so it's not going to back off, but the never seize just keeps the thread from galling, which I've done multiple times. The other thing I've learned with these is use a ratchet, a little 1/4 inch drive. Don't try to do that with the power ratchet. You're just flirting with disaster. Just take the time, screw them in by hand, and then you can feel what's going on. So yeah, radiator hoses are clamped off. I might do power steering next while I got it up here right in my teeth. We'll see. Okay, got updates. Started looking at my fittings for the power steering and realized pretty quickly that I'm short one AN 1090, and I'd like to have a 180 for here. I just kind of mocked one up to see how it would go. So those 2 pieces will be here tomorrow. I moved on to the valve cover breather catch can. What I did was I took a plate and tapped it to 1/4 ran some button head screws in from behind, and just fastened the plate right to the firewall while leaving the screws long, and then put the catch can over the plate. Yeah, I think you can see it here. You can see there's a plate behind the catch can. So behind this bracket there's another plate. So I just threaded it through so that they acted like studs at that point, and tightened them up onto the plate, and then used nuts to attach the catch can. The reason for that is the vintage air box is going to be over those screws, and I won't be able to ever get them out again. So that's kind of where it had to be. I'm waiting for 2 adapters to go down from 10 to 8, but I've plumbed them into the breathers on both sides. Not sure if I mentioned this before, but one of the things I found interesting is these little vent tubes are just pressed in. Initially, this one's pointed forward so you can run it up into your air cleaner. I'm not a believer in that. I don't like having any of that mist get into the intake. It just makes a mess and all that. So, but anyway, it's just pressed in, so you just put a punch in it and slowly rotated it around, and it points to the back. So now it's a very clean, nice, neat setup for both valve covers going into this can. So check. Waiting for 2 45-degree fittings here. They should be here today, I think. Today or tomorrow, I can't remember. But that is about it for right now. I did get my extension cable for the fan. I just threw it on here so I wouldn't lose it. But yeah, I'm just going to keep working down through the list up here. The fuel line is now completely connected on this end. I did put a couple of mounting clips for the fuel line here just to keep it from chafing on anything. So that should work out pretty well. And I guess that's about it for right now. I did get a pad to go under the battery so that I can clamp that down properly. The battery's just the lip on the battery is just a little too low for the clamp to hold it in properly, so that will help to wedge that home. And yeah, I think I'm just going to keep working down through my list and see what else I can attack. I think I can do one of the power steering lines right now. The line going from the return line from the steering box up to the reservoir I can do, and then I can put one end on a couple of the others for now. So I might do that at this point just to keep this process moving. So let's go over the power steering plumbing a little bit here. The way this works with the Detroit Speed racks, which you can see down here, the top fitting on the rack is the return. The bottom fitting is the pressure. So the pressure comes out of the pump, obviously, through the AN6 fitting, down to the rack, then back up from the rack to the bottom of the reservoir. It pushes up through a tube in the reservoir, which, you know, some would argue might aerate it a little bit, but as long as the level's above the top of that tube, it should be fine. And then the pump draws from the bottom of the reservoir through this AN10 fitting back into the pump. That is the circulation. Now, I do not have a cooler on here. Traditionally, I've never used one in the race cars anyway. So we'll see if the temperature of the becomes a problem and I start getting frothing or misting out of the breather in the cap, then I'll just throw a cooler in front of the radiator and call it a day. But right now, I think I'm in pretty good shape with the way this played out. Now, I use this Fergola AN fittings and hose. This is coated stuff, and it's PTFE, so it has a PTFE liner inside that. And the way you can tell it's PTFE on the fittings, you can see it has a little flare at the end of the fitting. The non-PTFE ones are kind of straight right here. That's the brand Fergola. I like this coated stuff. It's easy to clean. It doesn't get super dirty. The other stuff I use is just the regular braided, nylon braided, not coated. It's a lot easier to work with, but it does tend to gather dust. So I use both, but anything where I'm using PTFE, I try to use the coated stuff. So like the fuel line and the power steering lines, I like to use that. So anyway, yeah, that's it for now. Yeah, we'll just keep moving. So I think that wraps it up for the under the hood plumbing. Got my adapters all on for my breather can for the valve cover breather back there. That's connected to both valve covers. My oil catch can is connected up to the intake and then feeds through to from the lifter valley and then feeds through to the intake. My steam vents are in place. My radiator hoses are in place. Power steering pump's all plumbed. I think that's all the plumbing that I've got to do, which is good because I'm getting tired of AN fittings. Of course, I'll have to do more when I get back to the gas tank. But up here, I think that's pretty good. Got some other stuff to do next. I've got to put in the whole the windshield wiper affair, and then I've also got to start looming the wiring harness up here. I need some terminals to shorten up some of that stuff, so that might wait till next weekend to start the wiring. But making good progress, feeling pretty good. The only thing I don't have plumbed up is the hoses to go up through to the heater core or the AC lines. Those will be coming shortly. I've got to get the box in first and then make up my hoses. Kind of contemplating whether I really want to take these fenders off or try to find a way to do it without taking the fenders off. That would be awesome. Not sure I'm going to be able to do that. Really hate the idea of pulling these back off, but may have to. So, that's going to wrap this video. Hope I've showed you something interesting. Like, subscribe, share it, all that jazz. I've just got this sitting on here right now. I don't have the tube that the mass airflow sensor is attached to yet, so that'll be here sometime next week. Then I can kind of just get that rigged up to run it, and then figure out what my final disposition on that's going to be. So yeah, everything's done. Clutch master cylinder, brake lines, power steering, vents, breathers, catch cans, steam vents, radiator, check. I think we're good.